Hey there, YouTube. Welcome to Big Mike Beard Wisdom. So today, we're tackling Christmas lights. I do wind up going with kind of a big mess of wires. So normally, I wind up using this splitter block, and then this gets hooked to a timer. So the timer's just out here. So I'm out on my front porch, and basically, I've got a switch set here, which is controlled from the inside. So there's a outlet switch on the inside that controls this. And then I've got this just mounted here with double-sided tape. It's pretty handy. And I know that like every year I'm going to wind up doing this. So real quick, we'll kind of get the time set somewhat close. And I'm not the biggest fan of this particular style of outlet, because especially having this out here, it's only a couple inches from the ground. Well, I mean, it's probably, you know, a good hand width, so maybe, you know, 8 inches to a foot up. And this can get wet from the snow, and sometimes it just shuts off or trips this breaker over here. So I do want to replace this at some point in time, but this year we'll keep struggling through the way we do. And then right now, it's roughly 2 o'clock-ish. So I'll just line that up there. Until I flip that switch inside, this isn't going to move along anywhere, but at least I have it kind of set. And then I run my lights normally from as soon as it starts to get dark, so about 4:30 until about 9 o'clock. And then I have it come on again at about 4 a.m. and then turn off at about 7:30. That way they're not really on all night. This thing's kind of handy because that flips down and helps protect that timer. And the plugins are just right down here. Now the kind of outdoor box that I'd much rather be using is like this one here. So this is the one that I was using for when I was using the bug zapper. And this is the same outdoor cord that I use for the Christmas tree lights that I use for the bug zapper. And the nice thing about this one is that it flips up and has this channel right here that the wire is able to drop down through. And then the box is pretty well protected. So whereas the other one only has that little flip up area, this will close all the way down. And I'm pretty sure something like this, where even if it was down lower as opposed to being, you know, 5.5 feet in the air, that this would be much more water resistant and less of a chance of, you know, a little bit of something getting in the GFCI and tripping it, and then wondering why my lights are on at weird hours of the night. And then on all the electrical points, so on all the connectors and stuff like that, I always want to put in a bit of tape to help seal it. So this looks like it's bubbling up a little bit, so I'll probably want to replace this one. But all I'm doing is just trying to cover up where the 2 prongs go. That way there's no water intrusion between the probably freezing rain, snow, and ice that we get. I don't have to worry about anything weird going on inside of there, causing an issue later on. So like last year, you can see I had these wrapped up pretty good. Now this has gone all the way through summertime, and I'm willing to bet it's relaxed quite a good bit. So these were nice and super tight on there. More than likely I'll have to take it all off and just redo it. But like this right here, so this is where I had the 2 extension cords joined for where it went out to the bug zapper. And you can see this is still wrapped up nice and tight. And the idea is to basically wrap it up that way there's no chance of any water getting in there. So nice and tight, conforming as much as you can to as many surfaces as you can, and you should be good to go. I've seen some videos where people do some really kind of cool stuff, where maybe this is on a set of sticks and you put a bottle over it. That way this sits up on the yard and out of the way, and the bottle sits over it and helps protect it from any rain. And I would assume by having the bottle go down and around it, it would help protect it from snow as it builds up, and then the snow just builds up around it as opposed to going inside the bottle. So there's different ways to waterproofing, but I particularly like this one with just the simple electrical tape, because then it's quick, easy, and done. And you can see like this one from last year, so nice and tightly wrapped up here. This still looks relatively okay. I don't know if I like this, you know, bulge out right there so much. But you can see I've got this wrapped up for where the extension cord joins here, including the grounding plug. And then I've got this part taped up. That way the prong part back here is covered, so there was no chance of water intrusion. And that worked out pretty good. This set of lights is in decent shape. Looks like I've got a couple of them that are out. So these are like an icicle one. So I'll have to try and see if I've got like a burned out light somewhere that's causing a problem. Looks like all these are lit up. Then when I get down to here, these are out, starting at about that arm there. And then looks like all of those are lit up. So if I remember right, this string here goes on the big, long part of the porch. This string here goes in like this little weird bush that we have. And the reason why that goes there is because this has a big burned out section. And last year I went through this pretty good, replacing bulbs, replacing fuses, trying to go through. And I think I've got a broken wire in there. So rather than trying to diagnose where the broken wire is at, I just kind of decided to relegate this to a far off land in a bush. That way it's harder to tell that you've got a burned out section, because nothing's really super consistent on the bush and it just looks kind of crazy. And then if you're looking at me going, did he say fuses? So if you look at a lot of the cords, you'll have a small fuse box here. So right here is a fuse box, and you can kind of see that arrow where it says open. Now, not every light string is going to be the same, and they may open up differently, but you can see this one says fuse plug. So if you've got an issue, it might be that you've blown a fuse, not so much that you've got a bulb out. Real quick, we're going to wrap this up with the tape. So this is just normal electrical tape. Nothing super special. And normally what I do is I try and find a nice flat area. So with this, I'm going to focus on this area here to start with. So that lets me get one good wrap around there. And then I'll slowly start to work the wraps up and around. Slowly moving forward and overlapping as I go. Then on this tail end, I'll kind of make a quick turn, go right over where that goes, and then go ahead and break the tape. Now you can cut the tape too, but you can see the prong holes are all nicely covered. And then you can just kind of squeeze this down. That way this is all nicely sealed up. So not too bad. If you miss a spot, you can always go back with a little bit of tape and fill that in, because the goal is just to try and stop water intrusion. So it's up to you as to how well you tape it. This one I think is good enough. My main concern is this backside, just because I'm worried about water intrusion getting in there and then getting into the wires and somehow causing this to break inside and then losing this whole connection of lights. So pretty simple, fairly easy, and it's worked for years for me. It's just normally I've got to redo this every year, but this one's done. I've only got like, I don't know, 7 or 8 more to go. And your ends are always easy too. You can kind of just start on the far side, go right across. That way your plug-in's all fully covered. Come to about here, make a quick turn, zip around, and then all this going around part does is you're just looking to secure this part here from pulling forward. And then a lot of times it's easier to cut the tape rather than tear the tape, because now you got weird little odds and ends. But it's cold out here and I want to get this done as fast as possible. Now, if you're not going the plug-in route, there's always solar. And the solar ones are pretty interesting. I bought these last year as an experiment, so you can kind of see the shape of these bulbs. So these two here kind of work sometimes after a year, but I've left them out all year long. So they've been constantly getting filled and discharged, because these little solar panels go to a little battery that I think is built inside of it. And some of these have stopped working. I don't remember if this one here works. And there's always these kind of guys. So Santa here charges up here, charges the battery in there, and he lights up. Same thing with the reindeer and the Christmas tree. The biggest thing with these though is you kind of got to be careful, because it's really easy to snap these sometimes. And with Shadow and Bandit taking off out here, they've knocked these down plenty of times. So these have taken a beating pretty good, but they still work. The biggest thing is to make sure that if it snows, you'll have to clear the solar panel off. Whereas with a wired one, you don't have to worry about clearing the snow. You just have to worry about whether or not, you know, anything makes the circuit breaker pop. And then these over here are actually my favorite ones. So with the nice round lights, these are pretty cool. I've left them up all year long. I kind of like them because even on like Halloween, this purple kind of has a nice place to it. So it kind of looks festive given any type of the year. And it's kind of neat just having something in the corner of the yard that has a little light. And our front porch needs some paint. But I like to hang the lights on this. And then these are icicle light sets. So essentially there's a main strand and then they've got the little jut outs. And what I'll do, that's kind of cool with how the people had the house before. They've got these screws set up, which I don't know if it was to hang lights, but they were perfect for hanging lights. And basically what I do is I just used a couple different lengths of zip ties, and then I wind up cutting them with just a little pair of wire snippers. That way, instead of like running a staple or a screw in there every year, or you know, something else that may damage either the wire or whatever you're putting it into, this is pretty simple and fairly easy. All right, then as you can see, I kind of like to have the wires hidden, so I've just got this kind of ran back behind here. I'll probably put another zip tie right about here to hold that on there nice and tight, but I've got a zip tie here and a zip tie there, which kind of keeps that tight on there. Then for the screws, what I'll do is I'll actually zip tie a zip tie to it. That way the wire isn't sitting directly on the screw itself, possibly rubbing a hole or something like that in there, because in case it gets windy. And then I just run multiple zip ties down to keep these kind of all in order. So not all of them will line up. So like this one over here, I just kind of brought these two over together. Same thing with these two. These two pretty much just straddled this one. So one was here and one was there. So I kind of brought these two in and down. I'll do that for all the rest of them, and it should make a pretty decent amount. Should go down each pole. And that's the nice thing about the icicle ones, is that it's like adding a bunch of extra lights that you wouldn't have normally had. Then it's always interesting to take a quick step back, kind of to see how things are looking. I mean, the phone doesn't really do it justice right now, but this should be pretty interesting later. All right, so got the lights all up. You can kind of see it's kind of sort of an interesting look. especially with the lights running down each banister. Then I've got the, you know, the lights in that bush. They kind of look all right. So my wife's just putting up the candy cane and the snowman. And the interesting thing about the solar stuff is that if you buy the cheap stuff, sometimes it only lasts about a season. This will be the second season on this outer string. The inner string lights up sometimes, but I think it's just one of those things where sometimes you get what you pay for. So if you buy the cheaper ones, there's a good chance they're only going to last maybe a season. But you can definitely see that the plug-in ones are way brighter. And I remember these being just a little bit brighter as well, but I think it's as the time goes by, maybe it gets a little bit weaker. So with the solar lights, you got to be careful about your placement, because as you can see, way out here, it seems nice and sunny. We're away from the shadow of the house, but this is late November, and you can kind of see the shadow from the tree here, which is the maple over there. So at some point in time, these only get full sun for part of the day, and the rest of it will be kind of hidden. So these won't be fully charged as much as if they were in a nice, you know, fully sunny spot. But at least they're getting plenty of sun. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to like and subscribe. I'll check you next time. Alright, so oh crap, why do the tape? I had the tape. Tape right away. Tape, 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 tape. Somewhere, somewhere, somewhere. Zip ties. Where's my knife? It's gonna be one of those days. Hey there, YouTube. Welcome to Big Mike Beard Wisdom. Oi. Hey there, YouTube. Welcome to Big Mike Beard Wisdom. So today, we're tackling the what in the world am I doing with the lights this year? Question.